said, excuse me, but you don't understand where I'm at. I was all around the world, on span, across the map. I've been laying low and now it's time to pop up, bitch, I'm back. Now I'ma run it up. Snooze on the kid that you dumb or what? You better go get your numbers up.
Hey folks, how's it going? This is Jeff S., aka True Knowledge, the humbled and original host / co-host of the MCU'S Bleeding Edge YouTube channel and podcast. Here to do a Sunday live stream edition of the Bleeding Edge, a little bit after 6:18 p.m. Eastern, to review and break down the first episode of The House of the Dragon, the HBO series Game of Thrones prequel. With me, I have returning to cover some new shit. Typically, throwing down with us on our Marvel MCU stuff. Renee, Loki's mom, from the podcast of Champions, so card.freeforums.net. Thank you for deciding to participate today, Renee. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to watch the hour, 20-minute long first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Did you overall? Did you enjoy the episode?
Yeah, I mean, it was as far as the story goes, it was kind of typical. I mean, you've seen it's the king. They're fighting over the king as an heir. He needs a male heir. He can't get a male heir. He's got a duplicitous brother who, ambitious and whatnot. So it's pretty standard. I mean, you can go to Shakespeare, but half Shakespeare plays are written like that. Yeah, but as far as I thought it was, well staged. I liked how the characters were. I think they were not too unaccessible. I mean, I had sympathy for the king. I guess Patty Considine's playing that part.
Yeah.
And
Viserys.
I'm kind of I'll kind of be bad on the names because unless they're named Bob or Jeff.
Just give it time. Just give it time. Once you watch a couple more episodes, before you know it, you'll know who the characters are.
I have to have me a roster of names. I'm looking at it. But yeah, I mean, as far as that, there was a lot of things there's issues that I have with anything that has like that medieval Dark Ages setting. It's just my own personal dislike. It's a prejudice of my own, so I'm not going to blame the TV show for this. It's just something I have to deal with. But yeah, overall, I liked it. It was at first it kind of I wasn't that interested at first, but once it sort of got into more of the intrigue and the queen dying in childbirth and then losing the son and then all that, and I just think it was reflect. Now I have read medieval history and stuff like that. It's not like I'm ignorant of the period, but to a degree it does reflect, I would think, how medieval kingdoms existed. I mean, we can look at history. I mean, this is, I think, went on just about during the whole in Middle Ages and well up into the modern era, fighting over land. That's all they had was they fought. The youngest, the second son, didn't inherit anything, so he had to go to war and win his kingdom somewhere. So yes, stuff like that I think is reflective of reality. But then again, they bring in the mystical, the fantastic elements with the dragons and all that. So it's not really back the way it was, because it's they're probably living a little bit better than what people did during the Dark Ages. In the post-Roman church.
There might have been dragons. We don't know. There could have been dragons back in the day,
Well, no archaeological evidence for it. So,
all right. So we got the first time on.
Fantasy speaking, yeah, maybe people thought they saw dragons and stuff like that. It could have been UFOs,
That's true. But for the first time, we've got Bob here. Bob is actually a long time, I guess you can say long time now, Game of Thrones fan, a big Game of Thrones fan. He's actually the Game of Thrones expert out of the three of us. He's also a big Marvel Comics MCU fan. He's going to be hopefully joining in with us and covering some Marvel with me and Renee on some shows coming up. But thank you for coming on and participating again, Bob. I appreciate you being on the Bleeding Edge. Thank you for being a guest. And
no problem at all.
Did you enjoy the first episode of The House of the Dragon?
I liked it. It didn't grab me like as much as the first episode of Game of Thrones. Like it didn't grab a hold of me that like as quickly as that episode did. But I enjoyed it. It kept me interested. I'm pretty familiar with that part of their of the Targaryen history. So I'm interested to see where they take it. But I thought it was good.
Yeah, I think that of course, as I just mentioned, folks, I'm not going to lie. This is a different kind of thing than what we would usually do here on the Bleeding Edge. It was actually my co-host Cyber's idea. He's the one that told me. He's like, Jeff, if you want to review the House of the Dragon episodes and get into like the House of the Dragon, you should do it on the Sunday shows. It'll just make your life easier. I was like, how that makes sense. So that's what we're going to be doing. Yeah. All our Sunday shows, I think we're going to stick with the 6 o'clock time. Are going to be episode reviews all the way through the series. You tell me, Bob. What are they doing? 8 or 9 episodes of this?
I believe 8. But I'm not 100% on that.
Okay. Which is less than they should do than they did on Game of Thrones.
Yeah. The first few series, the first few seasons were about 13 episodes.
Yeah, they were.
And then towards the end, they got down to about 7 or 8. Right around there. Yeah,
because they ran out of story. Even I know that. Yeah. Even having watched it, I knew that. You know what I mean? Because there was so much fervor going on.
It was very divisive.
Yes. It's very unfortunate because, hey, I may have only watched the one season, and of course I'm going to go back and watch the whole rest of the series. Right. I have to. I got to use my HBO Max for something. I got a Snyder cut, and I barely used it since. You know what I mean? Except for occasional movie review or whatever. But either way, no. So basically, so 8 episodes, which is cool. We're going to be doing them every Sunday. We're a little bit behind. We're going to do episode 2 next Sunday. But going into this, Renee didn't watch Game of Thrones. I watched a season, and then I know the lore quite a bit and whatnot. I've done some research and whatnot. I know the basis and the premise of Game of Thrones. I'm reading the books right now. I'm in the progress of getting through them. And at that point, we're going to rely on people like Bob on the show to kind of fill in gaps and whatnot here and there, with the stuff that does tie in, which I'm sure they're going to connect stuff to Game of Thrones that they're going to want to. Now, I felt like, you tell me, now, Renee, I know that you wouldn't necessarily be able to make this connection, but you tell me, Bob, the music throughout the episode very much reminded me of Game of Thrones. Yeah,
especially at the very beginning when she's riding the dragon through King's Landing. You can hear little elements of the original Game of Thrones theme. And then after the end of the credits, I think they played the theme.
Yeah, it definitely. I definitely caught kind of a hint of some of the same style of music that Game of Thrones had. Game of Thrones is known for having a great score, and whatnot. I've actually watched some of those YouTube videos of the orchestra and the group, whatever you want to call it, playing the Game of Thrones stuff, and the team.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's about as it sounds as epic as a Star Wars theme or
they do the show. They do the show where they play the TV in the background, they play the they play the cuts from the shows and whatnot, and it's tailored to the music. Right. I watched those things on YouTube one time. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, but it's very cool.
So of course, unfortunately, I won't lie to you, folks. I really wanted HBO to do the initial premise they were going to do, which was going to be a series based off of the White Walkers, and the first long night,
the original.
Yes, the original long night against against the first men,
right?
And what are the little people called? The magical
Children of the Forest.
Children of the Forest, when they teamed up with the first men,
for the first time to take on the White Walkers, right?
The White Walkers. See, essentially, Renee, the premise of Game of Thrones to some extent, other than the whole Game of Thrones deal, that premise, the people trying to vie for the Iron Throne, or the kingship or whatnot of Westeros and the Seven Kingdoms, was that there was this underlying scourge or fight upcoming where these White Walkers, these undead, and these the Night King, their leader and everything and whatnot, were growing this army of the dead throughout the whole series. Every time that they would kill people, they would convert them into their own.
So it was just getting completely huge.
Yeah, their own army of undead, and basically, they had lieutenants and almost commanders of these actual White Walker types that use swords and whatnot and everything, and were more with it. But the army of the undead was just straight up savage zombie type,
Right.
type dead people.
Mhm.
And it culminated over like, the course of the series to where there was a final battle, like the long night, the second long night or whatever, where it was man versus the white, versus the dead essentially. And like, that's how it flushed out.
And I believe, isn't that when they first built the wall at that time too?
Yes. When they first built, they first built the wall, because of the fact that they pushed the first White Walkers, all the way out to the extremes of the north.
Right.
And then they wanted to separate the rest of Westeros from there. So they built the wall, of course, which I think it was 20,000 feet high.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
Pretty high.
But basically, going off the Game of Thrones, they were going to start off with that series. That was what they were projecting on doing. And then for some reason they decided to veer in a different direction and do House of the Dragon. I would have loved to have seen that. I'm sorry, but
that would have been great to see too.
Oh yeah, because I mean, hey, that long night episode was like epic on Game of Thrones. That I definitely watched. But so basically, essentially, Renee, just so you understand, and then of course, Bob, you can kind of help me fill in the blanks with this. Essentially, not in terms of where the episode starts, but overall, when it comes to the premise of this conflict that we're going to end up coming up, I'm assuming in episode 2 and 3 more that you see start to flush out towards the end of the first episode, is the fact that the reign of Viserys, the first, who is the king, essentially, his wife that we see that dies during childbirth, Aemma Aaron, of course from House Aaron, Game of Thrones, basically, only gave birth to one surviving child, which of course was his daughter, Rhaenyra, that rode the dragon and whatnot and everything in the episode. And essentially, Viserys decided to break from the tradition of agnatic primogeniture. I apologize for that total fuck up there with that, which demanded a male inherit the throne. To go ahead and present Rhaenyra as his heir, to the Iron Throne.
Because I believe when the Targaryens first made the King's council, at the very first one, they established that there would never be a female on the throne. Yes, they did.
It broke it like basically broke one of the initial almost laws of
covenant. Yeah.
Yes. So of course we see the death of Aemma, essentially, right, in the first episode, unfortunately. And now those of you who are familiar with Game of Thrones and George R.R. Martin know that in George R.R. Martin's version of this time in history, a lot of women die in childbirth. It's all the time kind of thing. It's a regular thing.
Right.
If not, they end up they're either dead or totally screwed up by it. But essentially, in 105 AC, this is when the first episode occurs. Aemon Aaron dies, and you see that essentially, I believe is it Aemon, that is his younger brother.
Oh, that's Daemon.
Daemon, yes, Daemon, Targaryen. Yeah, he essentially, of course, at one point was considered, I guess, the heir.
He technically, if they still went the male way, he would technically be the next heir, being his brother, since he has no son.
Yes, the next male in line.
Once the king dies, then it would go to his brother. So that's the king being knocked off by his brother.
So essentially at that point, when you see King Viserys declaring that that grand council meeting where he has all the different heads of the different houses and whatnot and everything, and brings them all in, that ceremony is essentially to formally declare his daughter Rhaenyra the heir to the Iron Throne, and to establish with these nobles a sort of pledge of their fealty, or whatever, to Rhaenyra, their loyalty to the princess, as his heir. And now from there, essentially, what we'll end up getting into throughout the course of the series will be the actual House of Dragon conflict, which will be, essentially where obviously Daemon, you see there in the end of the episode, is not too happy about the situation.
Right.
Viserys kind of sends him off, and that whole story with like the wife that he has and whatnot and everything that is wants something to do with, again, is like an older part of this story that like we could talk about another time. Because this whole thing spans across a long period of time, but essentially, there's going to be other factions that are going to present themselves and want, the Iron Throne. And that's where the conflict is going to like arise. And it's also going to center on King Viserys' next wife, that Alison Hightower, who is going to be
Rhaenyra's best friend.
Yes, is Rhaenyra's best friend, and it's going to end up becoming Rhaenyra's almost competition.
Right.
So that's basically
the thing is, if he has another male heir, then that nullifies her.
And that's the thing. She's going to give him 3 sons.
Yeah.
Which we'll see probably. I don't know if they'll be able to show that whole thing in the series, in this first season of the series.
Yeah, I believe there is, because I think they're going to do like a time jump, because there's actually 2 actresses playing Rhaenyra.
Right. Yeah. No. There's 2 actresses for the Hightower.
Yeah.
And for Rhaenyra. You're right.
Yeah,
so they are going to do a time jump. Yep.
Yeah.
I saw that in the cast list. So essentially, the Hightower woman, Viserys' second wife, is going to end up giving him more children quickly. She's like very, frugal,
very young and healthy.
Yeah, so she she just like goes ahead and bangs out like 4 kids quick, which is I guess where the time jump is going to go down. At that point, now adding 3 more potential male heirs to the whole situation. Whereas, Mrs. Hightower ends up becoming like a power broker or player behind the scenes, almost a la Game of Thrones. And what's her name? Joffrey's mother.
Cersei. Cersei Lannister.
Yep. So essentially, Renee, that's essentially the premise of it. And of course, there's dragons. Both sides are going to. Yeah, they're both going to end up with dragons. Daemon has his own dragon. It was, I think, one of the biggest, baddest ones out of all of them.
Yeah, I think so. It's maybe not quite as big as Balerion the Black Dread, but he seems like he's a pretty good size.
I think they're going to replace some of the more epic, large scale, army on army type battles in the series with more of the dragon on dragon.
Yeah, I think so too, because I think this whole Civil War is sort of the reason why at the beginning of Game of Thrones the dragons are pretty much extinct.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think it was pretty much because of this conflict that they're going to be entering now.
Yes,
big air war.
Yeah, because essentially the Targaryens were the only surviving house or family or whatever from old Valyria.
Right.
The birth of dragons, essentially where the place where dragons came from. There was a world impacting, type disaster or whatever happened.
The doom of Valyria.
The doom of Valyria, that where there was some kind of event or whatever that completely destroyed the entire island or whatever, and it killed off all of the dragons. So the Targaryens, I forget who it was in the family, but one of the nieces or something had a dream and a premonition that they should leave Valyria and settle, in Westeros.
Well, at the time, Aegon was settled on Dragonstone, which is an island outside of, I believe it's right outside of Blackwater Bay.
Yes, that's right. On Dragonstone, which they mentioned in episode 1 too. They are not. I believe they mentioned Dragonstone, but basically, at the point that that happens, that whole catastrophic event occurs, the House Targaryen becomes the only family on the earth that has dragons.
Right.
So that the point that we get into episode 1, the dragons that you're going to see in this episode and then across the entire series, those are the dragon. What's left of the dragons in the 7 kingdoms. And as Bob pointed out, with Game of Thrones, when you start off, there are no dragons. Until, of course, what's her name ends up getting the dragon eggs. Yep.
Yeah.
So Renee, as far as episode 1 goes, you mentioned already the acting and everything and whatnot. And there are some really, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not like the most up to date, film person out there sometimes when it comes to actors and actresses, but I did know who some of the people that were on there were. And I noticed definitely, of course, Matt Smith as Daemon, as Prince Daemon. He was excellent. What did you think? I'm not going to go scene by scene with this whole episode, Renee, Bob, because it's a long episode. A lot went down. You know what I mean? And I'd rather change things up. That's how I would usually, break down an episode of a show. I'd rather kind of just jump around a little bit. And at that point, who stood out to you? Again, Renee, kind of coming into things new with this stuff, not knowing much about the lore. Who out of the characters that were out there, or actors or actresses, stood out to you? At least just based off this first episode that you noticed.
Well, first, the young actress, I'm not familiar with what her name is, who plays the princess.
Emma Darcy as Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen.
I thought she was did really well. She comes across as this, she's sort of tomboyish, you see her, she's coming in on a dragon, she's out there mixing up with the guys and whatnot. So I think she's tough. I think, she's smart, she's clever, and I think the young actress really personified that real well. I would then have to say Matt Smith as Daemon. He is just so, he is so slimy. He's like a white worm, he's just and I just don't like him, and he's vicious. And Matt Smith just did a wonderful, because he's so cool. He kind of never. He's always got that leer on it, smile on it, whatever. He's a sadist, and so that, I think that come across. As far as the other, I didn't really see a lot of outstanding. It was just your standard British emoting that you're going to see in just about any of those dramas or TV shows or movies. So as far as the overall acting goes, it was okay. It wasn't anything spectacular stood out to me, other than Matt Smith and Darcy, Miss Darcy.
Of course, and you mentioned Patty Considine.
Yes,
King Viserys the first, the King, Viserys Targaryen.
Right. And I'll say that he came across as sympathetic, but then again, he's still a king. He's got He's heartbroken. He's already lost his wife and his son, and then the next kingdom over, whores his daughter off and sends, she's the same age as his daughter, But this was how things were back then. So he took it to the next step, I dare say. So it's kind of distasteful, I think, to our sensibilities. So, but then you have to say, well, that's how it was back then, and is very, and still is in parts of the world, sadly. So yeah. But I'll say he probably would be third as far as the rest of the actors. I saw Bill Patterson. I thought this guy's dead. He's in everything. He's sort of in the background. He actually did a few big parts when he was younger, but then he kind of fell back in the back and has done mostly smaller parts and whatnot, TV shows. But you see him a lot, and I do think he did pass away here not too long ago. But anyway, he was one actor I did recognize out of that whole group.
Well, we'll go over some of the other actors and actresses, but yeah, Patty Considine as King Viserys Targaryen, the fifth king of the Seven Kingdoms, known as a warm, kind, and decent man. Viserys was chosen by a council of lords to succeed his grandfather, King Jaehaerys the First Targaryen, as king. Viserys is the son of King Jaehaerys' second son, Prince Balon Targaryen. Such interesting names they have.
Yeah.
And his wife, Princess Alyssa Targaryen. That's another thing you can get used to here pretty soon, Renee. They do sister wife shit. Like the Targaryens are known for like incest. Like they like to couple sisters and brothers together and stuff like that and whatnot. I think that actually adds to
that's another thing. It just kind of turns my stomach here.
Well, see now
that type of stuff going on.
they believe that they are essentially like that, like they are the blood of the dragon. So at that point, to them, like inbreeding is like is just bringing purity.
Well, that's reflective of how it was. I mean, they cousins and whatnot. They were, what was it, Queen Victoria and all of her children, they all married in. And when World War II happened, they said it was War of the Cousins. They were all blood related and fighting each other. So if you look at World War I, and that these were kings and dukes and whatnot that were waging that war. That was not a war like World War II, where a dictator invades another country. This was something else. And so right up into our own, just about our own era, stuff like that type of morality and whatnot was acceptable among the elites and among the aristocracy.
Oh, if I was a Targaryen,
people couldn't do it. The common people couldn't do it, but they could.
I'm telling you, if I was a Targaryen and I was in the House of the Dragon or whatever, whatnot myself, they'd have to have my own like mini series outside of the show or whatever, where I would have like my own House of the Dragon, but it would be me and like my whole like menagerie. Like all my chicks would be like my cousins. I'd be doing like cousin threesomes. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Like I'd be doing my OnlyFans, like an OnlyFans, but like Targaryen OnlyFans, like my cousins and shit.
Yeah, right. I think you're crossing the line there a little bit, Jeffrey.
That's all right. I don't think they had OnlyFans.
Yeah, I just ate dinner, Jeff. Please.
Anyways, either way. So no, you tell me, Bob. Kind of maybe being a little bit familiar with some of the characters going into episode 1. Besides Matt Smith, did anybody really stand out to you?
In the first episode, pretty much I agree with Renee. Rhaenyra did. She was a really strong character. The Hand, he seems sort of like a little more conniving than he makes himself off to be. Like Otto Hightower, I don't know the actor's name.
Otto Hightower, yeah, and he's being played by Rhys Ifans.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he just seems like, with him giving his daughter basically to the king, he just seems like he portrays himself to be a little more above the board than he really is. Like, I think he's going to be a lot of trouble too.
That's how things were, though. George R. R.
Everybody was backstabbing everybody.
Giving your daughter up to like the king or whatnot is like regular shit.
Oh yeah, if the king wanted your wife, you had to give it. Wanted to spend the night with your wife. You had to.
Even after, baby. That's right. I'm trying to get them to bring that shit back. We need it. But seriously though, I get where you're coming from with Otto Hightower. I actually I liked him in the episode. But from what we did get out of episode 1, and again, it was pretty long. Obviously, I don't know how long they're going to be from episode to episode. We'll have to see. But besides that, was there anybody out there that really stood out to you in episode 1? I mean, what about Emma Darcy as Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen? Did you like the young version of Rhaenyra?
Yeah, really. I thought she was really good. She played well beyond her age, it seemed like. She had a lot more knowledge beyond her age. Like, I know, like, that was probably the reason why he has her in the council as his cupbearer. I mean, even though she just recently became the heir, she's probably a lot smarter by learning everything from the council, whatever they're talking about.
Yes.
And I thought that she portrayed that, like, sort of, I'm not a kid sort of mentality. I thought she portrayed that pretty good. She kind of reminded me of Arya Stark.
Yeah.
From Game of Thrones, where she doesn't want to be a lady. She wants to be more of a warrior.
Sure, except for the fact that she accepts and understands that she is the heir, essentially,
right.
Like, to the throne, and to her. And I think she's aware of the fact that is breaking tradition too. You know,
Right.
like I think she's aware of that. But also Olivia Cook. Now, of course, these are all like British actresses and actors that pretty much are in the series. Olivia Cook plays Lady Alicent Hightower, the daughter of Sir Otto Hightower that Bob was just mentioning. Raised in the Red Keep and a part of the King's Inner Circle, known as the most commonly woman in the Seven Kingdoms. Renee, what does commonly mean?
How's it spelled?
It's spelled Comely.
I think it's comely.
Comely.
Yeah.
Comely, and that pronounced comely is, it looks like comely, but that would be she's beautiful. She's pretty. She's not, but she has an inner beauty as well. There's something of warmth about her her appearance and everything. So that would be what they would. And it's a very high compliment to be called comely.
Like she brightens up a little.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that because I really was not sure. I was trying to figure out what exactly that meant. I knew it was positive.
Oh, yeah.
But what did you think, Bob? What did you think of the relationship or the scenes that we saw with Alicent Hightower with Princess Rhaenyra?
I thought they were interesting. They almost, I don't know if they were kind of touching on them having like a little attraction to each other, a little bit when they were in the woods.
Which again, also would totally not even be like out of the realm at all. With George R. R. Martin.
Right. Which I'm not sure how they're going to do that because of what I know of what happens. Like they're going to be pretty much rivals at some point. So their friendship is going to be like very tested and probably destroyed. But I thought she was an interesting character. I wasn't sure what was up with her thing with the nails, with her nails. I guess she chews her nails a lot or she picks at her nails a lot when she's nervous because she was doing it at the tournament. And when her father asked her to go see the king, she was also doing it and he told her to stop. So I think that's sort of like a little habit, like bad habit that she's got that's sort of like more develops her character.
I think she's repressing something.
Yeah.
Well, she's probably just like having these images of like having to have sex with old wrinkled dick King Viserys and everything and whatnot. It's probably fucking her up.
Yeah.
I think she had her eye on Matt.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. They touched on this in the episode, Renee. You may not have thought anything of this, but actually, in this story overall, there's no reason not to go ahead and put this out here because this is this is all known information.
Right? Yeah, it's in the book.
But basically, Daemon has a thing with Rhaenyra. They have like
because he asked for her favor after he won his match at the tournament.
Yes, he and they're gonna flush that out over time too as she gets older and whatnot and everything. She's a little young, even for George R. R. Martin, type level shit or whatever.
Yeah, first cousins. That's fine. They're first cousins.
From what I understand of it, from what I've read and heard, they actually have a very close, like intimate, almost like friendship / romantic connection over time. Right. Like that's genuine. You know what I mean? Like, like it's not like, whatever. It's not just lust or whatever, and it's all just the inner workings of like this Targaryen house, like, how dysfunctional some different aspects of it are. But,
just talking about the incest idea, and it kind of brought something. That was what hemophilia was. That the blue blood. That's what they would come from, because wasn't it the Tsar Nicholas, his son, was a bad hemophiliac, and that was part of the whole come into the whole Russian Revolution and everything, and what the monarchy. There again, you have sort of a similar dynamic of that monarchy just surviving right up into almost the present day, and that type of monarchy, and I think Queen Victoria, one of her sons, was a hemophiliac. A little interesting side note, and because they're getting ready to tomorrow morning, they're going to send a probe, the Arius, up to the moon. I think it's just going to be an orbital satellite. But anyway, they're restarting the moon program. That's what I'm getting to. the man who's probably the most, really, without him, it would have never happened. And that was very controversial figure, Werner von Braun. And if you know any of his history, he was an aristocrat. He was an aristocrat Prussian. He had a pedigree. He was descended from kings, several kings, and whatnot. When they Operation Paperclip, they brought him over here to the United States to turn the V2, which bombed London. I aimed for the stars, but I hit London was the joke back then. To get his family over, he actually married his first cousin. And it was like, oh my God, what it was like, why would you do something like that? It was just shocking. But he said, no, this is what we do. I'm an aristocrat. She's an aristocrat. This is what we do, and it's perfectly acceptable in our culture to do that. So yeah, so that's just another weird little thing talking about this idea of this consanguinity, or however you say it. This that you have to keep the bloodlines pure, and it has to be done a certain way, and you have to marry this person over here, and you have to have the heir for that, like that. So yeah, so I think that's really in the background of this story, and how and really is quite reflective of real life.
What did you
real
think?
History.
Yeah, and thank you, Renee. Is it just me, or did you guys notice that it seemed like there was a lot of images, especially when Damon was with what is the city police called, Bob?
The City Watch, but they're also known as the Gold Cloaks.
Yeah, the Gold Cloaks. When they were cracking down in that one scene,
Yeah.
and Damon was leading them and whatnot. Is this me, or was that like shot really darkly? Like it was very hard to make out stuff that was going on.
It was pretty dark.
Chopping hands off and castrating.
I could hear the stuff. I could hear stuff like crazy shit going on, and people like screaming and everything. But they
were they showed they didn't show cutting it off, but then they showed the
rapist.
Related right there on the stump.
Gross. But yet that stuff went on. It's
Oh God, I'm telling you right now, Renee, you wouldn't be able to handle some of the Game of Thrones books. I'm telling you right now, because like some of the torture that goes on, like to women and men.
Oh, I've read it. I've read history. I mean, not those books, but I've read history, and I'm very well aware.
I'm telling you, I'm a pretty black and white type of dude, especially after the stuff I've been through myself, to where like I'm almost emotionally at times cold and whatnot. And like I'm telling you, man, some of the shit that goes down in Game of Thrones, like in the books and whatnot, is like that they didn't even want to show it to the depths, like on the series of like what it is in the books, because it was that bad.
Yeah, I imagine.
And then even the stuff they do show is pretty intense, like the whole scene with the birth, and they have to cut her open and everything. And that was
stick their hand.
Yeah, and they connected it to the tournament.
Right.
And side by side to kind of almost
right
like
when the guy's getting an axe right to the face.
Yes. That was freaking brutal, man. That part of the tournament. I don't know what part that was or whatever, where like all of a sudden, it was like it was the melee or whatever. I didn't know that you were allowed to kill people in those. I thought you were like.
Yeah, I thought it was just to like when Cole was fighting Damon and he sort of just yielded to him. I thought that was pretty much it, but yeah, they were straight up killing everybody.
Yeah, that was intense. I was like, Jesus, I thought this was going to be like, I didn't expect that. That was some graphic shit. That probably.
What was his name? The other young Lord Hightower. He could have killed Damon right then. He had the right to do it, but he didn't. So that was like part of the whole, and now Damon can't hold it against him. He was defeated, and if he ever holds it against him in the future, then that's bad on him. But as far as the etiquette went, such as it was.
Well, I think that's the thing. I think Hightower is like old school. You know what I mean? Like I think he's the type that like does go by the book. You know what I mean?
Chivalrous.
Yes, and again, honestly, Bob, you know as well as I do that. If anything, it's almost like an honor as the hand for him to give his daughter to Viserys. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like you're
basically putting your family into succession for the throne.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, everything is strategic
Oh
in
yeah.
this world. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why they call it the Game of Thrones. That's why it's one big strategic, you know.
Yeah, just a big chessboard.
Yeah, you know, and there's small pieces and there's big pieces and there's behind the scenes pieces and like moves that you make and whatnot and everything, you know. And I'm expecting to see a lot of that get flushed out over the course of this series. That type of angling and whatnot, you know, currying favor with, you know, certain people, certain houses and whatnot, you know, because we're going to end up, Renee, with a situation where we're going to end up having what I believe is the Reds versus the Greens dynamic.
The blacks versus the greens.
Blacks versus the Greens, where there's going to be two factions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, one supporting Rhaenyra, like for the Iron Throne, and then who does the other side support? Is it
Alicent Hightower?
Yes.
Well, basically her son, but she's like the main.
Yes,
main person.
Because she's like almost like, you know, the one that would be running the show because of how young he is.
Right.
Just like Game of Thrones, it's the same themes.
Yeah, sort of like the Cersei and Joffrey situation.
Same deal. So we can expect poisonings and like, you know, I'm sure all kinds of shit like that. But so I take it then, Renee, you didn't care for the tournament.
Well, I mean, as far as, you know, being part of the story, sure, but it's the visceral. I thought it was gratuitous. You know, they could have done it and done the whole same thing and with a lot less blood. But I know this is part of the Game of Thrones thing, so you know it's, you know, that was famous for the original. So I did hear enough about it that it was famous for that and for the blood and gore and guts and sex and ass and tits and everything else. And
Renee,
I really got mad when, you know, it did show Matt Smith going to town on a whore, or whatever.
Oh yeah, I couldn't see that
and
either.
Then he leaves, and then and they sweep him around, so you know we never see it. We never see his penis, so I was a little disappointed in that. But
I'm sure he's got a nice one.
Probably he's, you know.
He's pretty tall and like up and down.
Tall
type of
and
guy,
lanky,
so.
you know. I'm sure him and Hiddleston, they all.
Yeah.
Cumberbatch.
Yeah, and that whore was really nice. I mean, she was like, "Are you not happy? You know, do you want me to bring in two more girls?"
She's like, "I'll bring more people in."
Bring them in.
Apparently, she was nice enough that he's bringing her to Dragonstone with him.
Yeah, there you go. But no. I honestly, Renee, I don't know. Like, it surprises me. I would think that you would appreciate the authenticity of
it's not that I don't. It's not that I don't appreciate
in the medieval times.
Hang on, it's not that I don't appreciate the authenticity. I don't want to look at real war scenes. I mean, like where they're showing real war going over in the Middle East. Oh, I don't want to look at that. You know, so you know, it's like I know it's enough that I know it's going on to that extent. But there again, that's just me. That's just my complaint. I'm not saying that series shouldn't be depicting it that way. You know, it's their artistic freedom to do so. So it's not for me to
and not only that,
I don't put it down. It's just not for me. Let's put it that way.
But Renee, and Bob will back me up on this. There's so much else going on psychologically. You've got the crowd there, you know what I mean? You've got Ramirez there.
It's well staged.
Like, they're watching the whole thing. Like there's more to it than that. It's not just the violence.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was the whole the tournament scene, the jousting. It was well done. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah.
You know, just cut that camera a little quicker. Cut the scene a little bit.
You don't need to show the axe going all the way into the guy's face.
Yeah, I don't need to see the teeth come. I don't need to see a man's balls laying on the stump. You know?
Right. Now I feel like for me, I like to see that stuff because I like to imagine.
Yeah, I've kind of got desensitized to it, sort of, because I watch a lot of The Boys. Like that's one of my favorite shows, and that's pretty gory too. So I've kind of gotten used to it.
You know, it's not, and I'll just touch on it a little bit. And I don't really think that coarseness in our entertainment is that healthy for our society. And I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I don't know. I got to tell you, I definitely think that I like the authenticity. I do. And
well, it's what I'm talking about. It's entertainment. We're looking
Yeah.
at we should not be
And
entertained.
it
You
seems
should
like
not
in
be
entertainment
entertained by
a lot.
seeing a man's balls on a stump.
No, but this is this. I mean, throughout history, we know that that when you go back to the Middle Ages, things were brutal. They were fucking savage.
Yeah, because
But
pretty
you wanna
much
watch
like in
those-
entertainment.
But wait a minute. Back when ISIS was putting those people being beheaded, did you look at that stuff? Did you even want to look at it?
I never watched any of
There
that
you
shit.
go. And I wouldn't want to see a fictional depiction of it.
I watched them the one time they were burning the guy in the cage and shit.
Yeah.
And I could barely even fucking watch it.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. But
I don't want
artistic freedom, capitalism. I believe in all that. So they can show it. I can also turn the TV off. I have that option. But I'm going to watch the series. I can always shut my eyes.
I had this I got scammed online. I had this oh my god, this fake tough guy gangster or whatever dude text me or whatever and whatnot. Because essentially I was on a dating site and I talked to a chick on a dating site that was like a fake profile person, not a bot, like a scam artist almost or whatever. Yeah. As a part of the scam, because I'd given her a little bit of my information, not knowing who what her deal was, I ended up having this other scam artist texting me and whatnot, you know what I mean, and threatening me and threatening my family and whatnot and everything and trying to extort me,
right?
Saying that I wasted her time and everything and whatnot. And,
gotcha.
I kept pestering her for videos and pictures of her and whatnot and all this stuff, which I don't do anyway. It doesn't even make any sense. I could care less about videos or doing pictures of women. What am I going to do with that shit? Either way, this guy's trying to tough guy me through text and whatnot, trying to extort me. He wants $4,000 from me. But he's like, that's the fine. He's like, I know where you live. I know your family, this and that. I'm like, bruh, first of all my information is public knowledge. It's public record. My address, any asshole can find my fucking address and know where I live. I don't give a shit. But what does that tell you about how afraid I am of you? You know what I mean? Just to be clear, you're not on some secret agent shit or whatever. My address is public. You know what I'm saying? So right there, you're not impressing me. And then besides that, I was like, just to be clear, next time you want a tough guy, intimidate somebody like me that's born and raised from New York, you might want to vocally do it, on the phone, not fucking text me. Because honestly, dude, again, I'm not impressed. So you know what I mean? You could. I'm not worried about your $4,000 fine. You can go do whatever you want. He sent me some stupid pictures of some people, some guy's heads cut off and shit and everything and whatnot. Kind of crap you run into, man, online. You never know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But listen, I'm gonna go ahead and drop these trailers.
Okay.
Quick, because I've got Tiffy, my best friend over here, barking at me to open the door.
What is this brief mortal life, if not the pursuit of legacy?
I, Rickon Stark.
I, Corlys Velaryon. I, Ormond Baratheon.
Promise to be faithful
To King Viserys.
and to his named heir.
Princess Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra Targaryen.
Men would sooner put the realm to the torch than see a woman ascend the Iron Throne.
We play an ugly game. You have the determination to win it.
History does not remember blood. It remembers names. War is afoot.
The dream. It was clearer than a memory. And I heard the sound of thundering hooves, splintering shields and ringing swords. placed my heir upon the Iron Throne. And all the dragons roared as one.
I consider the matter urgent. That of your succession.
Well, who else would have a claim?
The firstborn child.
Rhaenyra. No queen has ever sat the Iron Throne.
The king has an heir, Daemon Targaryen.
I will not be made to choose between my brother and my daughter.
Rhaenyra's succession will be challenged. Knives will come out.
You are the king. Your duty is to take a new wife.
I have decided to name a new heir. I'm your heir.
War is afoot.
Do you think the realm will ever accept me as their queen?
A woman would not inherit the Iron Throne, because that is the order of things.
When I'm queen, I will create a new order.
Your family has dragons.
There are power men should never have trifled with.
If Rhaenyra comes into power, she can cut off any challenge to her succession. I am to inherit the Iron Throne. She will block my way.
Our hearts remain as one.
Oh, our hearts were never one. You never imagined yourself on the Iron Throne. Where is duty? Where is sacrifice? Now they see you as you are.
There you go, folks. A wonderful teaser and legitimate first trailer for the House of the Dragon. Now, Renee, had you seen those trailers before?
I actually didn't even get to watch them this time. I had to take a little break, but so I can't really discuss. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. It's no big deal at all. Let me ask you, Bob. Obviously, you've seen the trailers before until up until before that point right there when I played them.
Yeah.
Did you feel like what they gave you right there kind of like brought you in? Game of Thrones, like that.
There was some interesting scenes and characters that I kind of were more interested in. I think that's why because where I came from is that the ending of Game of Thrones was in my opinion it was pretty bad. So I kind of cut myself off from Game of Thrones for a while, but then seeing the trailers kind of got me back interested again, and I'm definitely interested to see where they go with it. And those trailers definitely piqued my interest.
I am too, and they've already went ahead and confirmed officially announced that they're going to do the second season.
Yeah, and I guess the first episode was like the highest rated or the highest, the most people watched that of any first premiere episode on HBO Max ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now that I did not know, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, look, Game of Thrones
was huge.
Yeah, I mean, Renee, you realize, right? That Game of Thrones, I think, was considered. I think essentially considered probably the best television show ever. Like, if anything, like if not,
I mean,
if not
in
top
that genre,
five.
in that genre, I would think. But yeah,
yes.
It was a top, probably one of the top TV shows. I'll say that. But not the best. Even me not looking at it, I can probably tell you right now it's not so. But anyway.
See, from what I've gleaned from the Game of Thrones series, from what I've watched from it and whatnot, which is not a full completed viewing, I saw enough to where honestly, Renee, even knowing personally that you're not into certain angles of this whole time period and whatnot, this medieval deal, I feel like you still would get into like the story and whatnot and want to continue to watch your way through the season after season of the Game of Thrones, you'd want to watch it. Like, if you got into it.
Well, I'm open-minded.
Yeah, and you never know.
Mm-hmm.
We could always decide down the road to like totally go against the grain and do something that's not even like logical from like a stats standpoint on YouTube, and we could review the Game of Thrones seasons or something like that, like post-mortem or some shit, why not?
Yeah, I would be down to recap them.
Yeah, let me ask you, Bob, and then I'll go to you, Renee. What did you think of the dragons, the taste of the dragons that they gave us in the episode? Like,
I liked it. I hope it's just a small taste compared to what we're gonna get, because if they're gonna capture every battle that was in this particular Civil War, there's gonna be a lot of dragon fighting.
Oh,
and pretty much every Targaryen at this point has a dragon. Like, I believe even King Viserys has one, or had one, but it died, and then he never had another one.
That's right.
But yeah, I think at this point, like, they're still doing the tradition where they'll give a Targaryen egg in their cradle so that they bond with it, like, as soon as they're born.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is like at the height of it. So I think we'll see a lot of dragons, and I liked what we saw so far.
Yeah, I thought I thought that whole scene where the funeral for the mother, for the queen, and the princess, she called in that they have that special language that we hear a little bit of it that they speak among themselves. And then she says whatever to the dragon, and then it ignites the prayer for the baby and the mother, and and stuff like that. I mean that the relationship that the dragon has with its I don't guess you'd call owner. I guess it's a partnership. Yeah,
dragon rider, I guess.
Dragon rider. There you go. It's rider or it's whisperer or whatever. I think that's a big plus for me as far as this TV show goes. I hope to see a lot more of that and dragon lore and kind of wish they'd have made the dragons a little prettier. They look just like they look mostly like just lizards, and I tend to think of dragons as having feathers. Being more of a chimera, it's got feathers, and it's all kinds of different animals together. But anyway, it's still a positive. So so that part's great.
Well, there you go. You like the whole connection between the rider and like its dragon and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the mystical elements that they can bring out. They talked about the old gods, the new gods, and their religion. I want to see more of that come forward, and not so much of this palace intrigue and
that's
battles and battlefield intrigue and whatnot. Because, like I said, we've seen that a bazillion times in any historical, medieval, Roman, Greek, you name it, Egyptian, Bible. It's all that's been done to death. We kind of can figure out how the plots and whatnot are going to go. So if they could bring some of these more mythical elements that obviously Martin, just like Tolkien and like Stan Lee and all these guys have drawn on ancient myth and they sort of recombined it and has turned out something a little different, at least a different story that we're not as familiar with. So yeah, that's another great thing about the series. So I hope to see a little bit more of that.
Let's ask you something that I'm a little bit concerned about, Bob, myself as a fan, is the fact that one of the parts I love about the lore of Game of Thrones is the entire black magic, like dark magic element.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a shy. You know what I'm saying? Like all that shit, the shadow binders, you know what I mean? And like all that kind of junk, like that's the stuff I think Renee was talking about. That we did. I mean, is that kind of element. And unfortunately, again, I could be wrong, but if I understand the basic premise of this whole conflict, there's not going to be a lot of stuff like Game of Thrones where we're going to have like, characters like, what's her name? What was the witch's name? The Shadowbinder from that it was a trade. She was
she's the one who brought Jon Snow back to life.
Yeah. What was her name?
I can't remember her name.
She was,
my mind.
She was married. She was like the assisted Robert Baratheon's brother.
Melisandre. I want to say
Melisandre, the Red Witch or whatever. Yeah, Melisandre. Now I don't see there being a lot of characters like that in this conflict. I don't think.
I don't, because I think most of that stuff was when Daenerys was across the narrow sea on the eastern side of their map.
Yeah,
where more of that stuff tends to happen, and I think this more is going to be in pretty much primarily in Westeros.
Yeah, because when you go, the closer you get to Ashai, the closer you get to the different gods and like the different religions and whatnot, and the dark magic and whatnot, and the shadow binding. But so unfortunately, I like that stuff too. I love that crap. But I don't know that we're really going to get a lot of that, or we're going to really have characters that are going to be really into that kind of thing in this conflict. I think it is going to be more of like a actual legit straight up. I mean, you have to figure HBO is going to try to make it interesting. But I think it is going to be more of a straight laced conflict of like power, basically like two sides vying for power, with dragons, and in these dragon wars and fights and battles, there's also going to be human like armies fighting too. So there's going to be ground fighting too, and like dragon fighting at the same time. It's going to be epic. But what did y'all think, Bob, of the connectivity that they had with the tournament, along with Viserys' first wife dying during that operation that they did, in order to try to save the child?
I thought it was interesting that it was kind of like a duality sort of thing where people are dying and then people are being born, and like even the two Valyrians, I think the couple, the queen that never was, her and her husband even commented, "Is this the way we should be celebrating a birth, with wanton killing?" So it was kind of a weird duality that I mean is just sort of standard with Game of Thrones, honestly.
Yeah, and I like that. That was what I was talking about as far as that whole tournament sequence. It was not the I was just going on about gratuitous violence, but the whole sequence itself was, I thought, well played, and the juxtaposition of her. At first, it's a wonderful thing, the baby's being born, and then it turns into this as they do that melee, as Jeff Carr says, and they're just butchering each other freely, with no consequence to their actions. And then she goes into this breech birth, and it's just, we got to cut her open, and we at least try to save the baby, and which is, of course, that would probably happen today. If a woman is dying and we need to get that baby out, at least
the male heir is always going to be the most important thing.
That was reasonable for them to do, as horrible as it was. But and actually, and I'll say this, I think that's when it kind of the TV show engaged me. Up to that point, I was just kind of okay, this,
it did take more of
a
exposition, like serious tone at that point.
And then when it really got into that action, well, they did have that terrible where he goes out and just they're slaughtering people, torturing people on the street for whatever reason, because he was mad at them. And there again, that was his right to do that. You could do that to people with no consequence, except maybe to his mortal soul or whatever. But that really engaged me right there, because it was well played, well acted, well written. It really, okay, I see what's going on here. I see how the story's going to go now. So just kudos to that whole scene.
Well, definitely. And I thought the tournament was really well done. I thought visually it was really, really well done.
Very exciting. Very
well shot. The jousting was great. It makes you wonder, like, what the budget was on this episode, in a way. For me anyway, I always think about that kind of stuff, like how much it must have cost to put together this first episode, an hour and 20 minutes long, right? I mean, seriously, like, if I had to like throw a number out, who knows? It might have cost like probably $30 million or something, or $35 million just to produce this first episode. Right. Who knows?
Millions probably.
Who knows how much it costs just to digitally do the dragons and insert them into scenes and whatnot, everything along. But so I guess probably, to wrap things up, for episode 1, I would just want to go out and just ask for some final thoughts. I'll start with you, Bob, and then I'll go to you, Renee. Just, anything that you've got left to say about the first episode, any premonitions that you have going into episode 2, any thoughts, as we head into that direction. And they've already released a promo trailer or whatever for episode 2. I wish I would have grabbed it. I should have played it, but it's okay. Next week I'll have my game a little bit tighter. I'll be more prepared. I'll have a Game of Thrones intro next week. I promise. I will, folks. Yeah, just anything that stood out to you. Anything you'd like to add, in terms of the wrapping up, the review of the first episode. Have at it, and then same thing to you, Renee.
Go ahead, Renee.
Oh, okay, I'll go ahead. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what to expect because, other than the standard, like I just talked about, the dividing up, backstabbing, getting the kingdom, whatever. I don't really know what to expect as far as how and what's the princess's name again? I keep forgetting it. Rhaenyra. She I'm interested to see how she goes. I mean, is she going to go sort of evil? Is she going to, in order to survive, in order to, establish herself, she's going to become ruthless? I can see her doing it. I can certainly see her doing that. Or is she going to try to be more of a just king or just monarch? I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Because I think as y'all said, they're going to jump up. We're going to get into further into their adulthood. So we're looking at maybe 20, 30 years span of the series, maybe. So we'll see.
Okay, Bob.
Yeah, and I just really enjoyed the episode. I thought it was a really good starting point. I'm really interested to see how far. I mean, are they going all the way to the end of the whole conflict of the Civil War with the Dance of the Dragons? I'm really interested to see where that ends up, and I'm just looking forward to the whole thing again. Like I'm getting like those sort of like vibes where that I had watching Game of Thrones, where I'm just kind of excited for the next episode again, which I kind of miss. But I'm really looking forward to where this series goes.
Should be available in just 90 minutes.
Right.
When it comes to, that's how HBO does it. It's not on their streaming. You have to wait till it's on HBO.
Oh, wait till they broadcast it
on the cable. Yeah, it has to be on the cable HBO at the same time. So yeah. So in a few minutes, just a little while, we can find out what happens next.
Yeah.
And I was going to tell you, Jeff. Also, if you'll look HBO, they'll have a lot of like afterwards discussion, little like maybe like how they shot the scene and stuff like that.
At the end of the episode.
Yeah, and stuff like that is real valuable as far as things like just discussions and whatnot.
No, I agree. I actually that's when I was sitting here before you came on. That's what I was watching.
Mm-hmm.
Was like the takes from the actors and actresses talking about the scenes and whatnot. I like that stuff. I really do.
Mm-hmm. It's behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, it's like if anything, I wish I could go ahead and play some of that stuff like during one of these shows, but unfortunately, because of copyright stuff, I can't. You know what I mean? Like I can't.
Mm-hmm. Right, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I even thought about potentially maybe like screen sharing a YouTuber and playing one of his videos explaining the entire House of Dragon conflict through his own words and with like visual.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I think they start the show with that.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of work off that. You know what I mean? And let him go ahead and explain the entire premise.
Sure.
And then I was like, I don't know. I don't want to take the chance, and then there'd be an issue. You know what I mean? So I'll look into it.
You can't put YouTube. You can't share YouTube off your streaming.
You can. I mean, you know what? It probably would have been harmless if I would have done it. To tell you the truth. Because I mean, unless the YouTuber himself was to like go after me, you know what I mean? Like there should be no problem.
Well, that's the whole point. They're putting that out as advertisement. They want it spread,
Yeah,
they're not going to necessarily go after people for that. I wouldn't.
No, I'm just talking about maybe doing like 5 or 7 minutes of just like a video, explaining the entire House of Dragon,
right?
How it plays out. But no, I mean, look, I'm just going to say that I think the first episode was great. I think it was very Game of Thrones reminiscent, very, very much connected directly to Game of Thrones, at least from the way that it was displayed. and like how things flushed out, what occurred during the episode, right? Was very good Game of Thrones-ish as far as stuff that would happen during that time period too. Again, this is 174 years before the birth of
Daenerys Targaryen.
Daenerys Targaryen, right? Who is of course like the mother of the dragons or whatever and whatnot in the Game of Thrones. But basically, I'm going to give the episode. It's tough, but I guess out of 10 stars, I'd say episode 1 was probably a solid 8.75 or maybe a 9. I think it was that well done. I like the length. I was happy that it was an hour plus long and whatnot and everything. They had a lot go on in it.
Yeah, they didn't really rush anything. It didn't feel like.
No, I mean, and the acting was great. I thought it was great. I thought the visuals were great. The music was great. Yeah. And yes, the violence and sex was great too. So, and we're probably gonna see a lot more of it. So you're gonna have to grin and bear it, Renee.
Well, I don't mind the sex part.
Oh, I know that. I know. Who doesn't? Right?
The more gratuitous, the better.
There you go. Yeah, that's how I feel about it too. You see, that's another reason why you should watch Game of Thrones, because there's lots of like.
That's right. I heard that. Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah, they had more of that than they did like naked women at times. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but either way. So, all right, folks, listen. For Bob, for Renee, Logi's mom, for myself, Jeff S., aka True Knowledge, over at the MCU'S Bleeding Edge YouTube channel podcast. This is our first episode review of The House of the Dragon. We hope that you enjoyed it. I know that we get most of our views, post YouTube once they're actually not live and they're just a video on YouTube. And we appreciate all of you that end up checking this out, based off that format. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and help Saturday Night Shark, my co-host, and I hit 3,000 subscribers. We'd really like that. That would be a totally chill thing to happen. And we'll be back next Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific to review episode 2 of The House of the Dragon. I'm sure I'll probably have Bob back and Renee back, and we'll probably even have maybe 1 or 2 more people too. So we'll open things up and like try to expand the roster a little bit more.
Right.
But y'all take care, and we'll see you later. Peace.
Galaxy. Yeah. Someone at the door, John, now I'm here to stay. Tell me who the fuck gonna face the music. More brick laying, less screen time. Been cutting back on the daily usage. Long road for the road dogs, for the weird minds from a soapbox. Got BKTs on this bitch, so everybody getting rolled on, yeah. Yeah, everybody getting rolled on. Check artist credits on BMI. I'm just too kind to expose y'all. And I see a team with a ghost sign and question if y'all ever wrote songs. All enemies of mine have been studied.